Good morning, Acadiana. Welcome to Local News Live, or thanks for tuning in, I should say, to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with The Advocate and our local version, the Acadiana Advocate. Each Monday through Friday, we bring you the news as reported by The Advocate and as read by some of our dedicated volunteers. Yesterday, we were graced with Danon's presence, and this morning, we have our regular volunteer, Mr. Bruce Cohen. Bruce, how are you this morning, buddy?
Well, I am doing just fine, my friend. Doing just fine, ready to tell Acadiana and Lafayette region what the heck is going on in our area.
Well, tell them about it. I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street Radio.
Okay, my friend. Thank you so much, Matt, Engineer Matt. Well, good morning, Acadiana. Thank you for tuning in, as always. And we do have a load of stories to get to this morning. So I'll start off with Guillory avoids input in shunning mask order by Ben Meyer, staff writer. Lafayette Mayor President Josh Guillory frequently claims that his coronavirus policies are based on input from a task force of medical experts. And he did so again on Tuesday while explaining his decision not to impose a mask requirement across the parish. Based on the information I'm getting on the medical task force, looking at the situation, I would not be justified in requiring a parish-wide mask order, he said, in response to City Councilman Glenn Lazard's request that Guillory consider an executive order requiring masks in public. The unspecified information Guillory referred to did not include any recommendation concerning a parish-wide mask order. He never asked for his public health advisor's opinion, and they never offered one. The task force leader, Tina Stefanski, said Wednesday that such an order would absolutely be helpful in stemming the Lafayette virus outbreak, which is one of the worst in the state. I understand that enforcing can be difficult, but I certainly think that we need to do everything we can in order to urge people to work with us, said Stefanski, who is the regional state health administrator for the 7-parish Acadiana region. Mask orders like the one Guillory rejected have been imposed this month in other larger jurisdictions across the state amid sprawling daily case counts and hospitalizations. Justin Parish, East Baton Rouge Parish, and the cities of Shreveport and Kenner are all requiring people to wear masks inside businesses. Stefanski, responding to questions at a media event, said she and other health officials only weigh in on local policy matters when asked, and that no local officials have asked her about mask requirements for the public. Guillory, who spoke after Stefanski at a Lafayette General Health testing site in Broussard, acknowledged that he did not seek public health expertise when forming his position on a mask requirement, as he did recently in a series of less drastic measures. I didn't ask them their favorite color either, Guillory said, emphasizing that he routinely asks if task force members have additional recommendations when concluding meetings. When a reporter tried to ask about Stefanski's earlier statements, Guillory interrupted the question and accused the media of showing discord for the purpose of sensationalism. You want to pit the Region 4 LDH director against the local mayor president, Guillory said, referring to Stefanski and her position with the state health department. You have no good intent in your heart in that question. Guillory on June 26th announced a series of new restrictions, including a 200-person limit on public gatherings, a curfew for unaccompanied minors, and a ban on loitering in downtown Lafayette. The measures were announced in a weekend frenzy of executive orders and modifications after the state fire marshal, Butch Browning, said he would no longer tolerate indoor live music, which Guillory was allowing despite a statewide ban. The capacity limit on public gatherings was a recommendation of the medical task force, Guillory said on Wednesday, adding that he would have reduced the limit if the task force advised him to do so. During a Tuesday City Council meeting, Lazard asked Guillory to consider an executive order requiring residents to wear masks when outdoors, since COVID-19 is increasing in Lafayette Parish, especially in recent weeks among younger people ages 18 through 29. I think it's a good idea, Lazard said. I endorse it, and I would strongly recommend you consider passing an executive order. I think it's something that's long past due. City Councilwoman Nanette Cook agreed with Lazard. Guillory rejected the idea, saying he appreciates the rally cry, but with freedom comes risk. Requiring everyone in the parish to wear a mask is not justified, he said. Guillory said businesses should be vigilant in having employees wear masks. City fire and police personnel have increased compliance checks at businesses, he said. Employees who come into contact with the public are required to wear face masks or other face coverings. Customers are not required to cover their faces. This is a war against an invisible enemy, Guillory said. Complacency is our enemy. Asked why he did not seek the task force advice on a local mask order, Guillory said he was concerned about infringing on constitutional rights. I'm not a king. I'm definitely not a wizard where I can just press a button and say mask and everybody is cured, Guillory said. Meanwhile, daily state data released on Wednesday continue to show a bleak picture of the coronavirus epidemic in Lafayette and surrounding parishes. With 321 new cases reported on the day, the total case count in the region of about 600,000 people have doubled in little more than 2 weeks from 3,865 on June 22nd to 7,759 on Wednesday. The region for positive test rate remained above 10% for the seventh consecutive day. Also addressing the media on Wednesday was St. Martin Parish President Chester Cedars, who, like Guillory, said citizens, not government, are ultimately responsible for doing what is necessary to slow the virus spread. Government cannot be your mommy and daddy, Cedars said, or mama and daddy, I should say. Yet Cedars sounded like a frustrated parent when asked if he thought St. Martin Parish residents are maintaining social distancing and wearing masks in public. Hell no, he said, adding that public health experts are unanimous on the effectiveness of these measures. Who the hell is John Q. Citizen to say they are wrong? Okay. For vying to be next Lafayette Police Chief, local candidates approved by Civil Service Board by Katie Gagliano, staff writer. 4 candidates vying to become the Lafayette Police Department new chief has been approved to take the state's civil service exam and will advance to the next stage of consideration. The 4 candidates were approved at the Lafayette Fire and Police Civil Service Board's July meeting on Wednesday, Board Secretary Allison Schnexider said. The applicants were the only candidates for the job and no unqualified candidates were weeded out of the process, she said. The applicants, Lafayette Police Spokesman Sergeant Wayne Griffin, Lafayette's Police Sergeant Paul Chouard, retired Louisiana State Police Lieutenant Eric Burson, and retired Lafayette Police Lieutenant Guy LaBrate are all local Acadiana candidates. In March, Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory said he was launching a national search for the position. Lafayette Consolidated Government, or LCG, spokesman Jamie Angel said a national search was fielded, but with the current state of affairs, including the novel coronavirus pandemic and upheaval around American policing, it's understandable why applicant numbers were depressed. In 2016, when then Chief Jim Kraft retired, 14 people applied for the job. Spokesman said Guillory is understandably disappointed by the limited applicant pool, but said the mayor president didn't have further comments and doesn't want to taint the process. He has not reviewed the applicants and will not wait and will not until the test scores are approved by the Civil Service Board. If he can't find a candidate that seems ideal, he'll take a look at what the options are as far as looking further, Angel said. Interim Chief Scott Morgan has run the department since early January when then Chief Toby Aguillard stepped aside. Guillory told Aguillard in December he must resign or be fired before Guillory took office. The chief initially indicated he would fight Guillory, but instead resigned following a $70,000 settlement with the city. Guillory cited Aguilar's poor working relationship with Lafayette Parish Sheriff Mark Garber as one reason for his dismissal. Former Lafayette Police Deputy Chief Reggie Thomas, who previously said he intended to run for the chief position, instead retired from the department and has since announced to run for Lafayette City Marshal. Thomas, once the department's highest-ranking black leader, previously served as interim chief in 2016, bridging the retirement of Kraft, and now ousted Aguilar. Thomas made the decision to forego running after Guillory announced he was eliminating Thomas's deputy chief position. Candace Hatton, attorney for the Lafayette Fire and Police Civil Service Board, said the next step in the process is for the board to coordinate with the Office of State Examiner for Fire and Police Civil Service, who will then proctor an exam for the 4 candidates, possibly in August, she said. The Office of State Examiner will then review and score the exams, report the scores to the Lafayette Board, and the Lafayette Board will vote to advance candidates with passing scores and refer their applications to the mayor-president, who will take over the process, Hatton said. If Guillory rejects the applications, he can reopen the application cycle to solicit a second round of candidates, Hatton said. Candidates for Lafayette Police Chief are retired State Police Lieutenant Eric Burson, a Lafayette resident, worked in law enforcement for 25 years. He joined State Police in 1993 and retired in 2018. While there, he worked in motor carrier safety, the Special Projects Division, and worked with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, overseeing Louisiana State Police's Emergency Operations Center. His application said, Burson earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the University of Southwestern Louisiana in 1994. He works as an accident reconstructionist with A&M Forensics and Engineering in College Station, Texas, and works part-time with Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office on the crash response team, reconstructing crashes and leading trainings at the Acadiana Law Enforcement Training Academy. Lafayette Police Sergeant Wayne Griffin serves as the Lafayette Police Department spokesman. He joined the department in 2002 and has worked in SWAT, School Resource Officer Oversight, Patrol, Recruiting, and Narcotics, among others. Before joining law enforcement, he served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1995 to 1999, including serving 1 year as a training sergeant. Griffin earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from LSU at Alexandria, LSU-A, in 2019, and this spring completed a master's degree in business administration from Husson University, his application said. Retired Lafayette Police Lieutenant Guy LeBrayton, a Cade resident, worked in law enforcement for 27 years. He joined the Lafayette Police Department in 1994, where he served as a watch commander, worked in internal affairs, the Youth Services Division, patrol supervision, and evidence custody, among other roles. Before joining LBD, he worked for 2 years as an officer at the University of Southwestern Louisiana. LeBrayton earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from USL in 1994 and a master's in Homeland Security from Northwestern State University in 2016. He worked for Walden Security as a contracted special Deputy U.S. Marshal at the Federal Courthouse for the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Louisiana, his application said. And then finally, Lafayette Police Sergeant Paul Truard of Opelousas joined the department in 1997. He served as a firearms facility supervisor and range master, a departmental training instructor, detective, and officer involved in shooting, supervising, or among other roles. Truard earned a bachelor's in general studies from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette in 2008 and is earning a master's degree in organizational leadership from Columbia Southern University in Orange Beach, Alabama, his application said. Okay, we'll turn to our first public service announcement for the morning from the Diocese of Lafayette of Communications. Bishop Douglas Desatel of the Diocese of Lafayette has confirmed with Lafayette Mayor President Josh Guillory that churches are exempt from the updated COVID-19 guidelines now in effect in Lafayette Parish, which limit gatherings to 200 people and mandate the wearing of masks. All Catholic church parishes in the diocese will continue to operate under the state of Louisiana Phase 2 reopening directives. Bishop Desautels continues to strongly recommend that parishioners wear masks while attending Mass. The 12th annual Race Against the Clock blood drive. Each year, donors in Acadiana look forward to the annual Race Against the Clock blood drive, and this year's drive has a new level of importance. These unprecedented times of the COVID-19 pandemic have brought to light the importance of ongoing blood donations. As more elective surgeries resume and people become more active again, the need for blood in hospitals has increased by over 25% in the last few weeks. Regular blood donations ensure there is never a shortage of blood. You can donate at our annual Race Against the Clock blood drive on Thursday, July 9th. That's tomorrow. Well, that's today, Thursday, July 9th, from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Tomorrow, Friday, July 10th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday, July 11th, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Vitalent Donation Center at 1503 Bertrand Drive. All donors will receive an event t-shirt, a pint of Bluebell ice cream, a reusable tote, coupon for free half-dozen donut holes from Ricky Mesh's Donut King, and a coupon for a free McCafe drink from McDonald's. All items are while supplies last. Donors are also entered to win prizes and gift cards from various local businesses. And getting back into the news, the Lafayette City Council regulations eyed for short-term rentals by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Lafayette officials are considering regulating short-term residential rentals such as Airbnb in the city of Lafayette. The City Council on Tuesday introduced an ordinance amending the United Development Code to address the short-term rental of homes in residential neighborhoods. The ordinance must go back to the council for final approval. Mark Pritchard, a planning commission member, said the code does not specifically prohibit or permit short-term rentals in the city. The practice of renting homes for days or weeks to tourists or other visitors is permitted in 8 zoning districts in the city, he said, including residential zones. The proposed amendment, Pritchard said, is an attempt to provide clarity. The proposed change defines short-term rental as any room, space, building, or structure used as a temporary residence for fewer than 30 days in exchange for compensation. The city's planning department drafted the regulations, but the Planning Commission added restrictions in June after hearing neighbors' concerns. If approved as written, the regulations would apply to existing and future short-term rentals and would require the operator before October 1st to apply for a certificate of occupancy, which will have to be prominently displayed at the rental property. There were some concerns among short-term rental owners in RS1 residential zones with an addition by the Planning Commission requiring the owner live in the rental or on the premises. Pritchard said the Planning Commission wanted to protect surrounding homeowners, so the ordinance would require the rental property be the property owner's primary residence when it's in a single-family residential neighborhood to prevent out-of-town or out-of-state ownership of the rental properties. Several short-term rental property owners urged the council not to require the owner to occupy the rental property because it would put some out of business. But homeowner Jean Langlanet, who lives next to an Airbnb, told horror stories of the house next door being rented out for 2 weeks to a movie crew that partied until 10 p.m. next to her children's bedrooms and blocked their street and driveway with 30 vehicles, including trailers. Guillory denounces satirical Antifa rally. Founder joke Facebook event meant to poke fun at unfounded fears, by Katie Gagliano, staff writer. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory and the Lafayette Police Department has spoken out against a satirical event calling for Antifa, or that's short for anti-fascist, to take over the River Ranch development on Saturday. The event, Antifa Takes River Ranch, was created by the satirical Facebook page Kajunun Memes, which is Kajunun Memes, and called on card-carrying Antifa members to gather at Rufino's on the river at 4:20 p.m. on Saturday to begin our complete takeover of the elite neighborhood known as River Ranch. Joking language on the event page said attendees should wear their uniforms saying arms optional, legs encouraged. Event founder John Merrifield, who started the Kajunun Memes page, said he was inspired to create the satirical event after seeing similar stunts in other towns. Merrifield is a Lafayette native who now lives in New York working as an entertainer and comedian. In early July, a hoax Facebook event calling for a gathering at Gettysburg to host a peaceful flag burning to resist police inspired several right-wing militias and similar groups to travel to Gettysburg to combat the Antifa crowd, which did not materialize, the Washington Post reported. Misinformation about Antifa protesters traveling the country have been rampant, and Merrifield said he wanted to poke fun at the concept while showing how silly it is for people to buy into the conspiracies. I wanted to start a conversation, but I also wanted to show how gullible people are, he said. Guillory released a statement Tuesday evening saying Lafayette has a zero tolerance policy for threats to life and property and referred to Antifa as a hate group. Promoting a riot or disorderly conduct, whether joking or a hoax, is irresponsible and reckless, he said. Merrifield said his fake event does not threaten violence and has said he's received violent threats, including people saying he should be shot in the head and others saying they'd like to run over protesters in their vehicles. Antifa, shorthand for anti-fascism or anti-fascist, is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as a political protest movement comprising autonomous groups affiliated by the militant opposition to fascism and other forms of extreme right-wing ideology. Antifa does not have a centralized organizational structure, which is why Merrifield said he specifically referenced uniforms and membership cards in his Facebook event. The movement does not always entail violence, but violent interactions between Antifa-associated groups or individuals and right-wing groups have grabbed attention in recent years, especially following the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017, when white nationalists and counter-protesters, including some Antifa supporters, clashed, according to ABC News. The ideological movement has captured attention in recent months as anti-racist protesters and others had taken to the streets to protest police brutality and racism following the May 25th killing of George Floyd, a black man who died after a white Minneapolis police officer knelt on his neck for several minutes. Merrifield said he believes there's a boogeyman feeling associated with Antifa that's been stroked by right-wing media and politicians, including President Donald Trump, to explain discord, violence, and ideological clashes at protests rather than analyzing the role of all parties involved, including law enforcement. I think it has to do with people wanting something to point the blame at. They want to point the blame at an organization like Antifa and say that's where all the scary is coming from. That's just not reality. It's not that simple, Merrifield said. The Lafayette Police Department issued a statement Wednesday and said there's no credible evidence that suggests that this event will take place. But the department and the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office are prepared with a contingency plan should there be threats to residents or property in association with the event. Sergeant Wayne Griffin, spokesman for the Lafayette Police Department, said in the release the residents opposed to the event should allow law enforcement to address the event accordingly rather than taking matters into their own hands. Okay, and let's look at a couple other public service announcements. And we look at Camp Unique, Dreams Foundation. Every summer, the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana hosts the greatest camp of all, Camp Unique. Camp Unique is suited for individuals with special needs. Camp Unique will be held July 13th through the 17th for ages 5 through 13, and July 20th through the 24th for ages 14 and up. The fee will be $75, and the theme this year is Peace and Love. All Camp Unique sessions will be held at Lark's Acadian Village. Individuals of all ages have a blast participating in a camp that is specifically tailored to them. They get the opportunity to take part in activities such as the art, fitness, karaoke, music, and dance, as well as getting a Camp Unique t-shirt and a snack every day. A highlight of Camp Unique this year will be the storytelling session by Chief Greyhawk Perkins, Common Dreams Foundation Executive Director Danielle Watkins. As a recognized expert on Native American and American colonial history, Perkins has inspired many audiences over the years, sharing tales of Asian cultures as a tribal storyteller and as a teacher of various subjects in Louisiana's school system. The registration form for Camp Unique can be found on the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana website. That's dreamsfoundationaca.org. Volunteers are also being sought at this time. If you're interested in volunteering, just go to the website, click on the volunteer tab and sign up. For more information about Camp Unique, you can contact Danielle Watkins by email at Danielle, that's D as in daughter, Onielle, at dreamsfoundationaca.org, or you can call 337-962-1609. AOC teams up with the United Way of Acadiana for Learning United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United program airs weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2, Cox 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For the daily schedules and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website, unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Okay, looking back at our news. One more story before we go to the day in history and the zodiac and the funerals in Acadiana today. Lafayette retail sales rise in May. Parish figures still $50 million less than a year ago by Adam Daigle, Acadiana business editor. Total retail sales in Lafayette Parish in May rose by 10% from April, but were still $50 million less than last year's mark as the area continues its recovery from the COVID-19 shutdown. Data from the Lafayette Economic Development Authority shows almost $490 million in total sales were recorded last month, after $444.7 million in April at the height of the pandemic, which was $72 million below the previous year's totals. May's totals is also down from the $538 million recorded in May 2019 and the lowest recorded in that month since 2016. Most municipalities in the parish recorded gains in sales, but more recovery remains for the area, said President and CEO Greg Gothrow. The $600 federal unemployment has helped increase spending, he noted, but that is set to expire later this month. The $2.4 billion in sales so far in the parish is 5.4% behind last year's total through May. As a community, we need to remain vigilant in following U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention guidelines to ensure we can continue reopening the economy and providing employment opportunities for those who lost jobs due to COVID restrictions, Gothrow said. Supporting local retailers and service providers will be important this summer as we strive to safely work our way towards phase 3. The city of Lafayette has recorded the biggest bump in sales among the parish's 6 municipalities, going from $294.5 million in April to $325.4 in May, a 10% increase. Yet that May total was still the lowest for that month since 2011, and April was the worst month in 8 years. Other municipalities reported slight increases. Karen Crowe was up 7.2% at $25.4 million. Broussard up 4.5% at $44.1 million. Scott up 3.2% at $20.7 million. And Youngsville up 2% at $25.2 million. The unincorporated area of the parish was up 10.5% at $46.1 million. Tucson was down 10% at $2.8 million. Other data points of note in the Lafayette region: restaurant sales were at $27 million, a 23.5% jump from April, but $7.5 million less than a year ago. Restaurant sales are now almost $44 million behind last year's total through May, a 26% drop. Grocery sales bumped up to $26.5 million, just below the $27 million recorded in March. That was the highest amount on record. Jewelry store sales nearly doubled to $8.6 million in May, after just $4.8 million in sales in April, which was an all-time low. May was also its best month so far this year. Apparel sales more than doubled to nearly $7 million after plummeting in April at $2.5 million, but remained almost half, $41 million, of last year's total through May at $74.6 million. Hotel receipts were at $1.87 million, a slight jump from the $1.7 million in April, but it remained almost half, $14 million, of last year's total through May, which was $25.3 million. Bait shops, which historically do well in the spring months, recorded $17,880 in sales, the fourth highest month on record, and more than doubling its April total. Sales tax collection numbers are gathered by the Lafayette Parish School System. And let's look at today in history. Today is Thursday, July 9th, the 191st day of 2020. There are potentially 175 shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on this date, July 9th, in 1776, the Declaration of Independence was read aloud to General George Washington's troops in New York. Also on this date, in 1755, British General Edward Braddock was mortally wounded as his troops suffered a massive defeat during the French and Indian War. He died 4 days later. In 1850, the 12th President of the United States, Zachary Taylor, died after serving only 16 months of his term. He was succeeded by Millard Fillmore. In 1918, 101 people were killed in a train collision in Nashville, Tennessee. And the Distinguished Service Cross was established by an act of Congress on this date, also in 1850. In 1937, a fire at 20th Century Fox's storage facility in Little Ferry, New Jersey, destroyed most of the studio's silent films. In 1943, during World War II, the Allies launched Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily. 1947, the engagement of Britain's Princess Elizabeth to Lieutenant Philip Mountbatten was announced. In 1965, the Sonny and Cher single, I Got You Babe, was released by Atco Records. In 1982, Pan Am Flight 759 and Boeing 727 crashed in Kenner, Louisiana, shortly after takeoff from New Orleans International Airport, killing all 145 people aboard and 8 people on the ground. In 2004, a Senate Intelligence Committee report conducted and concluded the CIA had provided unfounded assessments of the threat posed by Iraq that the Bush administration had relied on to justify going to war. 10 years ago, on this date, the largest U.S.-Russian spy swap since the Cold War took place on a remote stretch of Vienna airport tarmac as planes from New York and Moscow arrived within minutes of each other, with 10 Russian sleeper agents and 4 prisoners accused by Russia of spying for the West. 5 years ago, on this date, South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley relegated the Confederate flag to the state's relic room after the legislature passed a measure removing the flag from the grounds of the State House in the wake of the slaughter of 9 African Americans at a church Bible study. 1 year ago, a federal appeals court said President Donald Trump was violating the First Amendment anytime he blocked a critic on Twitter to silence a viewpoint. The court warned that any elected official who uses social media for all manner of official purposes can't then exclude critics without violating free speech protections. Looking at today's birthdays, actor singer Ed Ames is 93. Former Defense Secretary Donald H. Rumsfeld is 88. Actor Richard Roundtree is 78. Author Dean Koontz, who writes fantastic horror and science fiction novels, is 75. Football Hall of Famer O.J. Simpson, a man you gotta love, is 73. Actress Chris Cooper is 69. TV personality John Tesh is 68. Rhythm and blues singer Debbie Sledge from the group Sister Sledge is 66. Actor Jimmy Smits is 65. Actor Tom Hanks, wonderful actor Tom Hanks, is 64. Singer Mark Almond is 63. Actress Kelly McGillis is also 63. Country musician Pat Allahan is 42. And rhythm and blues singer Kylie Williams is 34. Looking at the horoscope today, or the zodiac or horoscope. If you're a Cancer, you'll have a way with words. Express your feelings, listen to sound advice, and find a way to satisfy both your needs and the concerns of the people who love you. Leo, call in a favor, offer something that will benefit a loved one, and do your best to pay it forward. Don't feel pressure to make a change. Do what you think is right. Virgo, with my birth sign, take the high road, think matters through, and do what's best for everyone. Don't get hung up on an emotional issue that you cannot change. Focus on the positive. Libra, do something special for a loved one. Time spent primping and pampering will help you relax and forget about anyone who is causing you grief. Romance is featured. Scorpio, pay more attention to your surroundings. How you live and the way you set up your space will affect your productivity. Dig deep and you'll discover what brings you peace of mind. Sagittarius, my wife's birth sign. Don't trust your emotions to lead you in the right direction. Take on a physical challenge that will help you disperse pent-up energy and anxiety. Strive to look your best. Capricorn, you'll come up with good professional and lifestyle improvements. The changes will give you the fuel you need to accomplish more in a shorter period. Aquarius, looking at the past will help you make sense of what's happening in your life. Take the initiative to handle matters differently. Focus on being the best you can. Pisces, listen, gather information, and do your best to make a difference. Look for innovative solutions to outshine anyone who tries to compete with you. Embrace change and thrive. Aries, get the facts before you let your anger take control. Nothing will be as complicated as it seems after you take hold of whatever situation you face and make adjustments. Taurus, the information sometimes gives you will change how you think and how you respond to certain rules. Stubbornness won't help, but adapting to circumstances will. And finally, Geminis. Emotional situations will need to be dealt with intelligently. Don't make an assumption based on gossip or scandal. Maintain your reputation and leave nothing to chance. And as always, the horoscope is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. The funerals today in the Kittyana area. Minnie Chapman, St. John Evangelist Catholic Church at 3 p.m. Michelle Duhon, Our Lady of the Lake Catholic Church in Delcombe at 11 a.m. And Don Lefebvre Sr., Evangeline Memorial Gardens Chapel in Karen Crow at 11 a.m. All right, and let's listen to a couple more public service announcements before we get back to the news. Keeping calm the COVID hotline. If you're feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding the public health emergency, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7, and all calls are confidential. If you need the service, please call 866-310-7977. That's 866-310-7977. Locally, if you feel any kind of emotional distress because of this pandemic, you can call 311 or go to online at 311lafayette.services. This is a call center with volunteers and medical professionals who are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and to determine if you need to get screened. You can also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner, an employee, or are looking for a job to get information about applying for a small business recovery loan, apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. Okay, getting back into the news. State tracks hotspots in an outbreak. Food processing plants, bars, top list by Sam Carlin, staff writer. As Louisiana continues to see weeks-long increases in coronavirus cases and hospitalizations, health officials have tracked hundreds of cases related to food processing facilities, bars, industrial sites, and a host of other settings. The data, released for the first time on Wednesday, partly reveals the scope of the problems associated with places like crawfish processing facilities and bars, which have experienced some of the most conspicuous outbreaks to date. The Louisiana Department of Health has confirmed 11 outbreaks at food processing plants, tied to 423 cases, 36 outbreaks at bars, tied to 393 cases, and 16 outbreaks in industrial settings, with 117 cases related to such facilities. The data is cumulative since the start of the pandemic, though the state's ramped-up contract tracing didn't start until mid-May. In all, the agency tracked 135 outbreaks, totaling 1,432 cases. Aside from the top 3 settings, the list includes colleges, 3 outbreaks with 84 cases, restaurants, 16 outbreaks with 68 cases, construction sites, 3 outbreaks with 48 cases, and casinos, 4 outbreaks with 38 cases. The figures are a significant underestimation of the total number of cases in each setting, said Dr. Alex Bilio, Assistant Secretary for the state's Office of Public Health. That's largely because the state has struggled to get people to answer contact tracing calls that would shed more light on where the virus is being transmitted. Still, they have raised concerns among health officials that places like bars, where people go to drink and socialize, often indoors, are spreading the coronavirus as the state struggles to get a grip in rising caseloads. That's a setting that presents a lot of challenges for us to manage, Bilio said of the bars. The health department defines an outbreak as 2 or more cases among unrelated people who have visited the site in a 2-week period. The figures are collected through reports made to the agency by the public and by contact tracing, a key part of the state's reopening strategy. The state spent millions of dollars hiring and training hundreds of call center workers to reach out to people who were infected and find out who they came into contact with. As of Monday, the effort was still floundering. Data provided by the health department showed contact traces have reached only 55% of the affected people in the state's database, and that number is below 40% when looking at the total number of cases confirmed since May 15th, when the program began, because the state doesn't have contact information for thousands of people. Governor John Bel Edwards has hesitated to take steps like issuing a mask mandate or shut down watering holes like Texas and other states have done to try to blunt the surge in cases. Edwards said Wednesday he's still trying to promote compliance with the existing restrictions. The state is doing that by embarking on courtesy checks to places like restaurants and bars to see if they're following the rules. He also again urged people to wear a mask, which health experts and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control say are helpful in limiting the spread of the virus, especially from the person wearing the mask. Edwards indicated he could tweak the state's rules to limit gatherings further. Currently, establishments can operate at 50%, but no more than 250 people. The 250-person threshold is more liberal than other states and federal guidance, Edwards said. However, he said he's not currently contemplating a statewide mask mandate. East Baton Rouge, Orleans, and Jefferson parishes, as well as Shreveport, have issued mandates at the local level. If the hands-off strategy doesn't work, Edwards said he will do whatever is necessary to make sure our hospitals aren't overwhelmed. While that isn't currently the case, a group of hospital leaders on a call with Edwards Wednesday did express several concerns, telling him they're seeing sustained increases in coronavirus patients and some trouble getting access to the treatment remdesivir, which can help those hospitalized with severe cases. Statewide hospitalizations have increased by more than 50% in the past 2 weeks, reaching levels not seen since mid-May. Our Lady in the Lake of Baton Rouge saw a 3 to 4-fold increase in intensive care with unit patients with coronavirus in the past week, up to 19 per day. It happened like a light switch, said Dr. Catherine O'Neill, the chief medical officer at Our Lady of the Lake in Baton Rouge. We saw the same volume of admits for COVID that we saw in March. Our Lady of the Lake and Tulane Health System said they are seeing younger patients than those who arrived at hospitals in alarming numbers at the start of the pandemic, though Tulane said it has not seen an uptick in numbers. Louisiana has more than 25,000 active cases of coronavirus, Billy O noted, which means it has become more likely people will become infected when going out. He urged people to think twice about where they're going, considering the data released on outbreaks on various types of settings. No matter how you slice and dice the numbers, to put it bluntly, COVID-19 is probably more present, more rampant in Louisiana than it has ever been, Edwards said. Okay. Federal inquiry sought into corrupt Louisiana police agencies. New Orleans nonprofit calling for civil rights probe into Jefferson Davis Parish Sheriff's Office by Jim Mustaine, Associated Press. A nonprofit that advocates for criminal justice reform asked the U.S. Justice Department on Wednesday to open a civil rights investigation into law enforcement in Southwest Louisiana, citing a long history of misconduct. The Promise of Justice initiative called the federal inquiry the only pathway to justice for Jefferson Davis Parish and surrounding communities that are subjected to a dangerous level of incompetence by law enforcement. The New Orleans nonprofit cataloged decades of corruption from deputies dealing drugs to trafficking female inmates for sex and highlighted the so-called Jeff Davis 8 possibly related killings of women that have remained unsolved for more than a decade. The group wrote in a letter to the Justice Department Civil Rights Division that local residents remain concerned that law enforcement agents directly or indirectly participated in these murders. The Jefferson Davis Parish law enforcement agencies and leadership have a long tradition of misconduct and corruption that has gone unchecked, the letter says. This behavior has encouraged criminal activity and violence, especially violence against women, to flourish in the region. A Justice Department spokeswoman said the department has received the letter and is considering the information provided. A message was sent to the Jefferson Davis Parish Sheriff's Office seeking comment. The Justice Department has drastically scaled back its civil rights investigations under President Donald Trump. But the Promise of Justice initiative implored federal authorities to take a close look at law enforcement and Jeff Davis Parish amid a national conversation about police reform. The request comes months after a 5-part docuseries called Murder in the Bayou drew new attention to the Jeff Davis 8 and painted a picture of allegedly pervasive law enforcement corruption in the region. Among the claims is that jailers in Jefferson Davis Parish regularly trafficked female inmates for sex. The Associated Press, citing state and FBI records, reported last year that at least a half-dozen women told authorities that deputies raped and trafficked them to male inmates inside the Long Trouble jail. The AP found that one of the 3 deputies charged in that 2002 corruption case remained a small-town police officer in Louisiana. The Promise of Justice initiative said its letter to the Justice Department that had collected witness accounts and statements that indicated widespread sexual abuse and trafficking of inmates. Jailers had trafficked women in and out of Jeff Davis Parish Jail for nearly 2 decades, the letter says. And now we turn to, let me just make sure I got all the stories here. Yep. All right, now we turn to the sports. Moment to seize. Former LSU star Temple sees NBA bubble as an opportunity by Christiane Winfield. Article, she writes for the New York Daily News, or he, I'm not sure. So out of New York, Garrett Temple remembers the day Trayvon Martin's killer was set free. He was in Los Angeles when George Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch coordinator in Sanford, Florida, who claimed self-defense after shooting and killing the unarmed 17-year-old Martin, was acquitted on murder charges. That day, Temple says, widely differs from the climate in America in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. It was really my first time just hanging out in LA, and it made me angry that it was so foreign to so many people, or people that just didn't even pay attention to it, Temple said Sunday. Whereas fast forward, I don't know how many years, 8 or 9 years later, it seems like people are finally starting to care about unarmed Black men being brutalized by the police and just Black Americans in general being marginalized. Protests broke out across the country after Floyd was killed in Minneapolis by a police officer who kneeled on his neck for nearly 9 minutes. NBA players find themselves at the intersection of entertainment and social justice. As the league gears up for its resumption from the coronavirus hiatus in Orlando, Florida, players are figuring out how best to use the platform to bring about change. Temple, a former LSU player, is in a unique position. Excuse me. He serves as one of 7 vice presidents of the NBA Players Union. He's been on a conference call, excuse me, after a conference call listening to his peers' concerns, not just with returning to play amid the coronavirus pandemic that has seen cases spike across the country in recent weeks, but also during one of the strongest Black Lives Matter movements that the country has seen since the movement's inception. Temple is one of 2 NBPA vice presidents on the Nets roster, the other being Kyrie Irving, star guard, who suggested on a conference call with about 80 others that players forego the Orlando bubble and instead work on social issues like police brutality, criminal justice reform, and systemic racism. WNBA star Maya Moore notably saw the fruits of her sacrifice come to life, giving up her career to help free Jonathan Irons, who served 22 years of a 50-year sentence before a judge, thanks to Moore, overturned the ruling and set him free on July 1st. At the end of the day, everybody has their own thoughts on how to affect change. I think the main underlying point is that everybody wants the same thing, Temple said. Kyrie, myself, most of the Black men in the league that are passionate about this, or if they weren't passionate, most of them are passionate about it now, we want the same thing. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. Temple has been a proponent of the Orlando restart. He says he, like most players in the NBA, gave some thought to the idea of sitting out, but ultimately decided to make a trip with his team. Temple is among a number of socially aware players who want to utilize their platform in the Orlando bubble to take advantage of the undivided attention they will have. What is the way we can most utilize this extra push, these extra ears and extra eyes that are on the situation? The world was at a standstill, and police killing an unarmed Black man happened again. And because of the situation in terms of the pandemic, people are paying. People have to watch. It's the only thing that was going on, he said. And my thing is, I think we utilize the situation, being in the bubble, as a way to continue to push it, because there are going to be so many eyes watching these basketball games again because of the pandemic. So I think the way that we can utilize these 2 or 3 months in Orlando to continue to push the narrative, to continue to have it on people's minds, fresh on people's minds, is something we can do in terms of keeping it on people's minds. Then obviously we can utilize the push to get things done from a league basis that we may want to have done in terms of donations and putting funds into certain things. And that wraps up my broadcast for the morning, folks. I appreciate you tuning in and listening at our TV stations, and also we have a YouTube station, AOC Community Media, and we also have an online streaming radio service entitled Cypress Street Radio. That's CYPRESS Street Radio, where you can listen to this broadcast every Monday through Friday from 9 to 10 a.m., a rebroadcast at 3 p.m. on Cypress Street Radio. And we appreciate you tuning in. As always, this is a service that AOC provides for free to our community of visually impaired individuals, as well as those individuals who do not get the newspaper or have access to the news cycle. We appreciate you tuning in. And as always, I say this has been Bruce Cohen. Will always be Bruce Cohen. And let's be safe, folks. Let's be safe and healthy, and let's just take measures. Please continue to mask, social distance when you're in a group of people, sanitize, wash your hands, do everything we need to do to control this pandemic, especially now that we're seeing spikes in the Acadiana region. Please be careful out there, be safe, and let's get through this thing together. And as I always say at the end of my broadcast, please be kind to each other. Have a great day.